So WordPress has a default page builder called Gutenberg. Sometimes I'll just call it block editor, just to show you what it looks like and give a rough idea of it before we do it in the next thing. I'm just going to go to pages and click directly onto the sample page. And then you're going to see this here. Don't worry about this because I just had it open earlier. And what we see here is generally what we are going to see. It will look a little bit different because obviously there are some UI around it. Okay. But basically the way it works that each one of these things is a different block. So you can see here's one block, that's another block, this is another block. You can kind of almost distinctly see what each block is. All right. So what we can do is we can add blocks. So if I go down here, okay, I can hit the little plus. You can hit this plus, which will give you like the most common ones. I could also click browse all. But if you hit this over here, it will show you all of the blocks. And there's a variety of them. So some of them are very basic and things we've already been writing in HTML, such as like paragraph or heading, list, right? You know these. Table, quote. So there's some here, and they're just kind of your basic, what you would expect. Underneath that, right, we have like image, but you can see some are a little bit more advanced. We have gallery, we have video, audio, and then if we go a little further down, you can see we can do columns and rows, and we can do groups of items. Grid, this is more of just basically how to do the layout, because right now you can see each one of these is just one full column. That's how we would differentiate and put things across. There's also the widgets. So the widgets are a little bit more advanced, but these will allow us to enter things such as like a calendar or a search bar, your social icons. So these are things that are kind of built in. Like I said, a little bit more advanced. You could look at it like adding a carousel, right? That you would have built into Bootstrap. That would be hard for us to code. These would be harder to code, and these are generally more dynamic elements, meaning that they will respond to the context and to the user. Underneath here, these are more theme specific elements that you could also put in here, or blocks, I should say blocks because we're in blocks, but that you can also utilize. Okay. So you see there's a whole bunch of them here. So let's just go here, and I'm just going to go ahead and let's add just a list, and then we'll just say blah, 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 enter, blah, 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 enter, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, while I'm in here, if I click this little bar over here, this will give me the some settings based on this. So all of these you'll see will have different settings, right? So I can choose like background and make it a different color. Okay, so depending on what element you have, they might have different settings. You can see this one's got different settings than some of the other ones. They also have this context bar, basically based on what I currently have selected. This bar will show something different. So if you see this one's different than what we see for this list here. Okay, if I go to this, it'll give me some general settings like duplicate or delete, that sort of thing. You can see where it's useful to know HTML, because if I want to edit this as HTML specifically, so I'm really trying to force something, we can do that there. Underneath that, you'll see we have these other options here. So we can add a link, italicize one of the words, make it bold. I can indent. Another thing I want to show you is that over here, see it says list item. That's what I currently have selected. If I click on that, there's no transform, but you'll see we can actually convert one element to another one. We can move this element up and down based on these little arrows, and you can also drag them like so. So whatever way it makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Now you can see I have an individual list item. What if I want to grab the whole list? If you click on this, it'll grab the parent. So if you hover over it, it'll tell you. So now it's saying list, but let me do it again. So if I hover over, see it says select parent block, which obviously the parent block of a list item would be the list itself. And then here I could switch it to being an ordered list. And then over here, you can see I can change the start value, have it start at 3. And then you can see over here, we have some other settings. Again, I can move it up and down. We can use these arrows to move it up and down. And you can actually, if I click on this now, it'll give me some options to transform, which means it'll convert it from what it currently is to something else. So let's say a heading. Now they're headings instead of a list. So that can be used. I'm going to undo that. Just Control Z or Command Z. That's the rough overview of how this works. So basically, you just go from section to section, and you just create a block, go down, make the next block, go down, make the next block, and you just build out the whole site that way. You can see this is much easier, right, than having to write it out inside of a text editor.